Santa María, Madre de Dios, ruega, Señor.
For more than 20 years, Latinos, predominantly Mexicans, have gathered at Immaculate Conception Catholic Church in Durham, North Carolina, to celebrate the feast day of Our Lady of Guadalupe, the patron saint of Mexico. The largest Catholic church in Durham, Immaculate Conception has hosted the ritual since 1996, when the church began offering bilingual masses for the growing Spanish-speaking community. Since then, the festivities have become grander in scale and involve many more symbolic traditions taken from the home country and represented in North Carolina. Central in these commemorations is faith and belief in Our Lady of Guadalupe and her connection to Mexico. As the story goes, Our Lady of Guadalupe appeared on the outskirts of Mexico City in 1531 to a humble indigenous man named Juan Diego. Assuring Juan Diego that she was the mother of Jesus Christ, Our Lady asked Juan Diego to build a church in her honor, on the very hilltop where she was appearing to him. But when Juan Diego went into Mexico City to tell the bishop and priests what had happened, they all laughed and belittled him, saying that the Virgin would never appear to an Indian like him. Juan Diego retreated back to his hilltop, where the Virgin appeared to him for a second time. After hearing his story, the Virgin instructed Juan Diego to place roses into his cloak and present them to the bishop and priests in the city. Juan Diego was hesitant, not wanting to be ridiculed again, but he did as he was instructed. When Juan Diego removed the roses from his cloak, a beautiful image of the Virgin was left in their wake, as if by magic. Like Juan Diego, the Virgin on his cloak was dark-skinned and had indigenous features, which made her immensely appealing to Mexico's indigenous and growing mixed-race community during that critical moment in Mexican history. The celebration of Our Lady of Guadalupe, known traditionally as Las Mañanitas a la Virgen, begins on the late evening of December 11th, minutes before midnight. Hundreds of Mexicans come to worship Our Lady of Guadalupe from around the Durham area, many donning colorful and traditional garb from their indigenous communities, and others dressing their children as mini Juan Diegos. After 20 years, the festivities in Durham have developed rapidly, so much so that the 2016 celebrations featured pre-Mañanitas programming, where two church ministers led the congregation in songs that serenaded the Virgin. As soon as the clock struck 12 to mark December 12th, everyone in the church erupted in the traditional Mexican birthday song, though a special version to honor the Virgin. Following the Mañanitas, led by the church's choir, individuals and local bands volunteered to serenade the Virgin, while hired mariachi groups from across the Triangle also offered their song and music to the Virgin. A few groups of traditional Aztec dancers also made their way to the Virgin, filing into the church in two parallel lines and captivating everyone with their performance. After 4 hours of serenades to the Virgin, At 4 a.m. on December 12th, the pastor of Immaculate Conception celebrated a Mass. Afterward, 100 or more parishioners sleepily filled the greeting space of the church, drinking coffee and eating pan dulce before the sun even rose to start the day. Later on in that same evening, on December 12th, the faithful Guadalupanos, as Mexicans who believe in the Virgin are called, embarked on a procession through the Birch Avenue and West End neighborhoods of Durham. The Virgin rode on the very back of a flatbed truck that sat some choir members whose voices echoed through the microphones. Hundreds of Latinos walked behind the truck, following the Virgin and serenading her image, singing the traditional songs. Aztec dancers followed dancing along, their rhythmic steps following the tempo of the music. Returning to the church, the pastor again celebrated Mass with several hundred Latinos present. The Durham celebrations for Our Lady of Guadalupe are by far the largest in the Triangle region of North Carolina. What makes the festivities at Immaculate Conception so special, of course, are those hundreds of Latinos who come together to recreate their home country traditions in the U.S. South. Mexicans began migrating and settling permanently in North Carolina in the late 1980s, amid serious economic changes in Mexico and North Carolina. The Mexican debt crisis of 1982 pushed Mexican migrants to the United States just as immigration reform was being discussed among U.S. congressmen. This migratory route from Mexico to North Carolina was not uncommon, but it was quite distinct from traditional destinations. While Mexican migration to the United States since the 1900s had been mostly directed to regions of the Southwest, areas that had been Mexico prior to 1848, with the 1980s came a shift of Mexican migrants instead to non-traditional destinations, places like North Carolina, where developments in manufacturing and industrial agriculture increased labor migration, especially from Mexico. The story of Our Lady of Guadalupe serves as a reminder for the Guadalupanos living in the racial and political landscape of the U.S. South that their dark skin and indigenous ancestry is something to be celebrated. The original Mexican migrants to the U.S. South, some with direct ties to indigeneity, are proud to pass down these religious and cultural rituals to the younger generation, those who were born in the U.S. South and perhaps have never been to Mexico. This celebration ensures that the Mexican traditions and legacies will carry on even in such a young immigrant community as North Carolina.